God, give me bigger wings. I'm too fat for these. Come on, lift. Ugh, still not working. God, give me bigger wings. I'm too fat for these. Ugh, come on. See, these are way too small. Oh, you think you're safe from love's arrow? Think again. Prepare to be smitten. Happy Valentine's Day. Oh, oof, I'm too heavy for these wings. I told God to make them bigger. This is embarrassing. Whoa, these wings are struggling. I told God I needed bigger ones. Oh no!
Oh no.
Ah! Oof, well at least I stuck the landing. Happy Valentine's Day! God, give me bigger wings. I'm too fat for these.
Oh, I thought that was topical and good for Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful evening and enjoyed themselves, spent time with someone maybe that they enjoy spending time with, and all that stuff, So that's good. Myself, I just basically spent time with Bella, and we hung out, and that was it. Except for I was out all day doing other stuff. AI is a freaking April's Fool that never ends. Yeah, it is, right? Let's see who's here tonight. Let's say hi to everybody. Let's see who. Jonathan Marcus, first person here. Good evening, Jim Insomniacs. Looking forward to a great news adventure. I'm back from a long absence. Well, I was going to ask where you were. That is a late show. Yes, it is a late show. I didn't get home until after 10. I was out running around taking care of family business. Sorry. Do the best I can. Mr. Sneaky Sean is here. Howdy, how you doing? Kevin, yes, 11:30, apparently so. Yes, happy Valentine's Day. Sorry I was out of the house, didn't get home until after 10. That's right. Yes, better late than never. Thanks, Trumpinator. Thanks for being here. Kimby's Dirty Kitchen's also here. Happy Valentine's Day. Hello, everybody. Steve says, I'm awake and Jim is broadcasting two good things to close the day. Well, that's great, Steve. Great. Hope you guys all had a great night. Everything's great. None of your business. What's up? Good to see you. I hope so. At this point, I'm so confused and exhausted. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Sunshine's here. Great to see you. All right. Pat Hacker, too. Terry's here. What's up, Terry? Kelly's here. Michelle's here. How you doing? Doc's here. What's up, Doc? Snarf. Vanilla Gorilla, what's up? Howdy, y'all. Snarf, caps off. Okay. NASCAR Mo's here, too. Hello, Jim. Happy Valentine's Day. Well, happy Valentine's Day to you, too. Snarf. I had the heebie-jeebies today. Oh, that's never good. That's never good. This AI is a freaking. Hey, Gilly's here. What's up, Gilly? Great to see you. The gang's all here, Phil. That's right. Jason Lazat. What's up? Good evening, everybody. Researcher Jason Steiner, a Portland potshop manager, acquitted by a Portland jury. Awesome video, brilliant legal defense. What? Is there a story with that? I mean, I didn't see nothing. Bella's chewing on her paw. Oh, she is. She's, who's handsome? What's up? She's, I don't know. For some reason, these dogs do that a lot. They lick their paws and they, do odd behaviors. Bella, knock it off. See? She stopped for 20 seconds. Anyway, so yes, I don't know. I was debating on whether we're even having a goal tonight because I just figured we'd just do a little show just so, say hi to everybody and spend some time together. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. There is a goal, you guys know, for everyone. He shot two or three robbers. Oh, okay. I'd like that story. I would really like that story. Let me look. Jason Steiner. Okay, I will look into it. And maybe we'll talk about it. There's a goal. We'll do, show will be about 2 hours unless I didn't even put it in. Should I even put a goal in? Should I do it? I guess I should. Screw it. We'll do it. Yeah. So if we hit the goal, we'll, for every $100 that comes in, we extend the show by an hour, and that's across all platforms. Cash App, PayPal, YouTube Super Chats, Rumble Rants, gifted memberships, becoming members, Locals coins, Kick, Twitch, Ko-fi, Ko-fi, Cash App, PayPal, what else? Super Tips. I don't know if I forgot anything else, but yeah. So if we hit 100, we add an extra hour to the show, and when we hit 50, we activate Bellavision for the evening, unless somebody donates $25 or greater, and then we activate it immediately. Sometimes it's boredom, sometimes it's fleas or other problems. That's not good. Is it true that Collins from Maine is a yes on the Save America Act? Yes, she is. She is a yes, but Murkowski is a no, and Mitch McConnell's corpse is a no too, I believe. So we'll have to see what happens with that. So let's do this. Let's start with, since it is Valentine's Day, let's start with this story, which is kind of prescient. The third robber ripped in another robbery weeks later. Portland, Oregon is a cesspool. Havana on a Wilmette. Okay. I chew on my field. Okay. A good day for Team USA. Men's hockey did their best to steal Greenland. Men's and women's curling teams won awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Renee Collins, great to see you. Brian Ogden, great to see you too. That's awesome. Nail biting. Hi, Jim. I'm a better Collins. Believe it or not, my great grandmother's last name was Collins, but that's not her maiden name. That's her married name. I don't even know what her maiden name is. She was my great grandmother. So I have relatives whose last name are Collins also. So Minnesota sees the largest known outbreak of a rare fungal STD. Yes, you heard that right. A rare fungal STD. My camera is off. Why is my camera off? Is that better? Maybe a little better. I don't like the way the mic looks. Dogs don't smoke or drink. Not fingernails. I like iron though. Fungal of the jungle. Yes. So That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, why is it not loading? Okay, I guess it's not going to load. Do you get it from having relations with your brother? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to learn together. We're going to learn together. Yeah, cat scratch fever. Yes. Or ringworm. Yeah, it's a weird sexually transmitted ringworm. Ringworm. No. In Minnesota, of all places. Wow. Why? What's in Minnesota, I wonder? Huh. Bunch of illegals, that's for sure. So, sexually transmitted fungal infection.
The Minnesota Department of Health is warning about a rare fungal infection appearing in Twin Cities doctors' offices. The illness, called TM7, poses a low risk to the general public, but men who have sex with men, people using anonymous apps, and those with prior STI history may face higher risk. It can cause ringworm, is often misdiagnosed, and requires extended oral antifungal treatment. Since July, health officials report 13 confirmed and 27 suspect cases, all in the Twin Cities metro.
We're taking a look at the Twin Cities economy tonight as federal officials say
Oh, that's crazy, huh? That's crazy. Minnesota health officials say is currently dealing with the United States' largest. Stop it. United States' largest known outbreak of sexually transmitted fungus that can cause ringworm. Huh. I didn't know. Anonymous apps. Yeah. Got mushrooms growing in her hoo-ha. Yes. Too much oral. Maybe. Yeah. Minnesota for Alberta. Be a good trade. Joe, what's up? Spuds, great to see you. Sledge-O-Matics here. Yes, what's up? Awesome. Yeah, so, so it was discovered its first case of a genital ringworm was found in New York City in June 2024. 13 months later, a case was confirmed in Minnesota, and since then, more than 30 cases have been reported in the Twin Cities. So you think it's because of all these people showed up there? You know what I'm saying? All these people showed up there to protest? Came from all around, and a lot of them are this trans weirdos and other stuff. And could it be? Yes. At ease disease. There's a fungus among us. Yes. World War I was started by Ferdinand marrying his beloved love and not his first cousin, a Habsburg Prince Stephen of Spain. Oof, the Junta virus. Yes, maybe. There's a fungus among us. Hunter, you. What's up? Great to see you. Health officials say the infection causes itchy, painful, persistent skin lesions, rashes on the genitals, buttocks, and abdominal areas. Rashes can easily be mistaken for other conditions like eczema, psoriasis, or other skin infections. Treatment can take up to 12 weeks. Anyone who has symptoms is urged to seek medical treatment. If confirmed, patients should avoid sex or skin-to-skin contact with others as it spreads through skin contact. Federal officials reported sporadic cases among men who've had sex with men. Huh. Well, how do they know what they identify as? Wouldn't that make a difference? Could that make a difference? Oh, what the stop it. Why is these ads? I can't. What is with these ads? How do you get rid of the ad? Oh, there you go. All right. Minnesota sees nation's largest known outbreak of rare fungal STD. So if it smells like a fungus, don't put your dick in it. I thought they said he was a fun guy, not a fun guy. Yes. Is it fungi or fungi? I don't know. So it's tryptophan menthylgrowths genotype VI or TMVII. It's a new kind of skin fungus associated with sexual contact. So wasn't it like just a couple of years ago it was monkeypox? Now it's this? It's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like somebody's trying to tell somebody something like, maybe your dick don't go in there. Just saying. Maybe it's not supposed to go in there. Patient 0, Barry Bathhouses, was a flight attendant that would travel to South Africa and Haiti. Oh, yeah. So what is, I forgot to get the name. Yes. I forgot that. Hold on. All right. I got it. So, first case in U.S. reported in New York City in June 2024 when a man was infected following European travels. Damn Europeans. Now Minneapolis and Twin Cities have an outbreak of their own. The State Department is calling the outbreak the nation's largest Center for Infectious Diseases. It's unclear if this cluster of cases is the largest known outbreak in the country since it's not a reportable infection and other jurisdictions don't have good surveillance data. In response to the recent outbreak, state officials and advisors are encouraging Minnesotans to see, if they see signs of it, to seek treatment immediately. Oral antifungal medications are a common treatment, with some patients taking them for up to 3 months. Is ivermectin an oral antifungal? Or is it anti-parasitic or something like that? I wonder. Anyone with the rash is urged to inform their sexual partners. Hey, yo, how's your rash? Tony Soprano used to say that all the time, right? Third Robert. Okay, I got that. Hey, Dan, what's up? No problem. That 9mm sits on my PC, fell on my toe. Newsflash, it hurts. That'll happen. Pretty much the only thing I learned from the internet. Beautiful cat. Love you, Jim. I like what you hear about yourself. Not that guy who doesn't want you to show Bella. I love Bella. Oh, well. Bella loves to... Damn it, you haven't... What? Uh-oh. Hey, Joe, sorry about your toe. Yeah, well, Bella's here. She's laying now, but we have strict accordance to the law. Bella can't appear for free. It's just the way it works. So that's that story. And then you're not going to believe this one. This one I filed under. I found under no shit, Sherlock. An all-time high number of Americans believe Democrats are too liberal. The poll says. Athlete's foot is usually ringworm, can get it through excessive sweating in shoes. However, if you have a foot fetish, it could get in the general. Oh, God, that's gross. That's gross. It just happened and it hurts like Kirk had space herpes. Oh, my God. A new poll by CNN found that 58% of all Americans believe the Democrat Party has become too liberal. I wouldn't say liberal. The shit they're doing is not liberal. The actions that they're doing are not liberal actions. It's not a liberal person does not go out and do these things. That's not a liberal. That's a leftist, like a communist, socialist. That's not liberal. They're illiberal. They want people to be quiet, not to speak. That's not liberal. They want to shut people up. They want to throw people in jail. That's not liberal. It's not liberal at all. While progressive support is rising, the ideological shift may be alienating more moderates and conservative Democrats, potentially creating internal party tensions. They are Marxists. Yes, they are. They're commie Marxists, Maoists. Being a follower of Giovanni Gentile is not liberal. Yeah. Bolsheviks. Yes, Bolsheviks. Maoists. This is this guy that's on CNN, and he makes some good points. This guy, he just does the numbers, but I don't know if I trust him at all, because why would you? So CNN's Harry Enton says, while the far left is significantly more powerful in the Dem Party, all-time high of voters say the party's too liberal. See, the far left is not liberal, though. That's the problem. Yeah, look at that. 96, it was 42% said it, and then in 2013, 48%. Now it's 58%. CNN's senior data reporter Harry Anton shared with most Americans already know the Democrat Party has become too liberal. See, that's not liberal, though. Frauducci 90s never talked about Barry's bathhouses. Oh, yeah, you're talking Fauci. Fraudchi. Make sure you use toilet seat covers. AZT poisoned my sis. Grew marijuana. Portland 90s. RIP 93As. Oh, my God. Just totalitarian. At this point, I'd probably vote for a communist before I vote for a Democrat. At least the commie is honest about what they are. Yeah, I think the results from that special election, that Democrat primary in the 11th district in New Jersey, speak to a larger point within the party that there's the far left is significantly more powerful than they once were. This gives up the game here. Democrats who identify as very liberal or conservative, there used to be a lot of conservative Democrats right back in 99. 26% of Democrats self-identified as conservative. Just 5% said they were very liberal. It was a smidgen, a smidgen, a smidgen, a smidgen. Joe says, start it up. Let's start it up. I've heard of $2. Thank you, Joe. So with that, then, did I start a goal? Oh, I never did start the goal on YouTube. Holy crap. I never did start it on YouTube. Wow. I didn't hit the start button. That's crazy. That is crazy. I can't believe I did that. I never hit the start button on the goal. What is wrong with me tonight? Maybe that's the world telling me I shouldn't have a goal tonight. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. Wow. So with that, that means we are 98 away from the first additional hour of the show and 48 away from Bellavision. Thank you so much for the $2. It's greatly appreciated. Every dollar helps. And then Trumpinator comes in with 5. Thank you. And then Terry comes in with 2. Thank you so much. So with that means we are now $9 down. So we got to go in there and go like this to $91 away. Right? No. Yeah, $91 away and $41 away from Bellavision. Man, I don't know what is wrong with me today. Oh, and I didn't put the banner back up. I got dummy. Yes, thanks, Joe. No work until I can walk again. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Trumpinator. Thanks, Terry. Yes, thank you. What is going on? Now the far left has gained considerable power. Look at this. Now we're talking about a fifth of Democrats. 21% say they're very liberal. The conservative of the party, adios amigos, goodbye, just 8%. When you combine 21% who are very liberal with those who say they're somewhat liberal, we're talking about 3 in 5 Democrats. That's why they're demon rats. But a much larger portion of the party, the far left, which used to be a smidgen within the party, has gained considerable power. Be nice to yourself. Okay, Jab, thank you. I'm going to try. What about Democratic Socialists? You got Bernie Sanders or Zoran Mandami here in New York City. Where does that line up? Okay, so on a separate question, where you essentially, CNN asked this last year, which was, okay, Democrats who think of themselves as Democratic Socialists, including those independents who lean towards the Democrat Party. Look at this. We're talking about a third of all Democrats who identify as a Democratic Socialist. They consider to be part of the Democratic base at this point. Commies. Yes, commies. And more than not, if you look at Democrats under the age of 35, they are nearly half of the Democratic Party. Yeah, see, half of the party is under 35. What does that tell you? They need stupid people. No offense, but they don't know shit. Bernie Sanders is a Trotskyite. The commies took over the DNC years ago. Yeah. 42% of Democrats think of themselves as Democratic Socialists under the age of 35. Wow. It's something we're seeing grow within the party at this particular point when we're talking about 42% of Democrats identifying as socialists and a third of Democrats. My goodness gracious. Yeah. Well, the 80-20 issue, that's the thing, is the 20% is the socialists that say no ID because that's how they think they can win. So if the ideology of the Democrat Party is shifting or changing, how are people feeling about it? So we're talking about the Democrat base, but what about all Americans? What about all voters? Voters say that Democrats are now too liberal. Look at this. The percentage was 42% in 96, 48% in 2013. Now it's 58% of all people say the Democrats have lost their freaking minds. It's also funny to go on Tanky Twitter, Blue Sky, to see how the Tankies really think of Trotskyites. Yeah. The Democrats are moving to the left. The far left is gaining power, and there could be some electoral repercussions because what we're seeing right now is voters, the clear majority, say that they are too liberal.
The results from that special election, that Democratic primary in the 11th district in New Jersey, speak to a larger point within the Democratic Party, and that is that the far left is significantly more powerful than they once were. This sort of gives the game away here. Democrats who identify as very liberal or conservative. You know, there used to be a lot of conservative Democrats, right? Back in 1999, 26% of Democrats self-identified as conservative. Just 5% said that they were very liberal. It was a smidgen, a smidgen, a smidgen. Now that far left has gained considerably in power. Look at this. Now we're talking about a fifth of Democrats. 21% say they're very liberal. That conservative part of the Democratic Party, adios amigos, goodbye, just 8%. And when you combine the 21% who are very liberal with those who say that they're somewhat liberal, we're talking about 3 in 5 Democrats who identify as either somewhat liberal or very liberal, with the very liberals, but much larger portion of the party. The far left, which used to just be a smidgen within the Democratic Party, has gained considerable power, as you saw in New Jersey's 11th district.
What about Democratic socialists, like the likes of, you've got Bernie Sanders and or Zoran Mandani here in New York City? Where is that line out?
Okay, so on a separate question where you essentially, CNN asked this last year, which was, okay, Democrats who think of themselves as democratic socialists, among all Democrats, including those independents who lean towards the Democratic Party, look at this. We're talking about a third of all Democrats who identify as democratic socialists. Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mandani are not alone. They are a considerable part of the Democratic base at this point. And more than that, if you look at Democrats under the age of 35, they are nearly half of the Democratic Party. Look at this. 42% of Democrats think of themselves as democratic socialists under the age of 35, just like Zoran Mandani. What happened in New York City, is not some aberration, right? It is not something that just happened in New York City. It is something that we are seeing grow within the Democratic Party at this particular point, when we're talking about 42% of Democrats under the age of 35 identifying as democratic socialists, and a third of all Democrats. My goodness gracious.
So if the ideology of the Democratic Party is shifting or changing, how are people feeling about it?
Okay, so we're talking about the Democratic base, right? But what about all Americans, right? How about all voters? Voters who say the Democrats are now too liberal. Look at this percentage. It was 42% in 96, 48% in 2013, now 58% in 2025 of all voters say that the Democratic Party is too liberal. The Democrats are moving to the left, the far left is gaining power, and there could be some electoral repercussions, because what we see right now is voters, the clear majority, say that they are too liberal.
This is really interesting.
It's really interesting. Yeah, so the terminology is deceptive. What's a conservative Democrat? There used to be prior to, like, I don't know, I think when they basically kicked out anybody who was pro-life is no longer allowed in the Democrat Party, basically. All right, if you don't agree to abortion up to, like with abortion, you can't be in the Democrat Party. So that's why all those people, because there was a bunch of them that were, they claimed they were pro-life and they were Democrats. They tried. The problem with the Democrat Party, the Democrat Party used to be the party of the working man, unions and all that stuff. They still have the union bosses, but the union members, the actual people working, are think they're fucking crazy, and it's insane. And they're basically replacing those people, replacing all the union members, the workers, like all the construction workers. They're replacing them with illegals. That's what they're doing, and foreigners. Joe Manchin was the last conservative Democrat, undercover communist, Hoffa. Hoffa actually supported Nixon. The Teamsters have a history of supporting Republicans, until they killed Hoffa and got rid of him. Hey, Forging Freedom, great to see you. Yeah, freaking commies, yes they are. A conservative Democrat were the ones who were fiscal conservative but semi-liberal on social issues. There was some. I conducted a jail exit survey for Washington County, Oregon, illegal immigrants, incarceration, recidivism. They need a Hunger Goal, I don't know. Maybe a Hunger Games or something. Is that what you're trying to say? Maybe. I don't know. So there's that. And then we got this story. The Trump administration pursues more effective efforts to ban illegal migrant truckers. Where is Jimmy? You talking about me? Or Jimmy Hoffa? They never found him. I don't think so. Let's see. The Trump administration issues rule to stop unqualified foreign truckers from driving on U.S. highways. The Department of Transportation issued a final rule to stop unqualified foreign nationals from securing licenses to drive commercial trucks and buses, as these drivers pose a significant safety threat to the driving public. Under the final rule, commercial driver's licenses, CDLs, will now only be eligible for H-2A, H-2B, and E-2 non-immigrant status holders who undergo enhanced interagency vetting. How about none? How about zero? Jimmy is in a big lake, maybe, of fire. Employment authorization documents, work permits that do not screen for transportation safety are no longer accepted as proof of eligibility. He's sleeping with the fishes about 1.5 miles out, maybe. In addition, all states are now mandated to confirm that the lawful immigration status of every foreign applicant for CDLs by verifying them through the systematic alien verification for entitlement system managed under the Department of Homeland Security. States lack the ability to access the driving records of foreigners and illegal immigrants. This loophole allowed individuals with dangerous driving histories to obtain a trucking license simply by presenting an employment authorization document. These reforms will address safety concerns by preventing foreign drivers who have not been subject to consular and interagency screening from receiving a commercial driver's license. Yes. The eligibility updates follow multiple road accidents involving foreign drivers. Well, we know about a bunch of those. In August, an illegal alien truck driver was accused of causing a crash that killed 3 people in Florida. A month later, in September, another illegal alien was arrested after the truck he drove caused an accident that resulted in critical injuries of a 5-year-old girl. In October, an illegal alien with a criminal history was arrested after his truck caused a multi-vehicle accident that ended up killing 3 people and injuring several others. This month, ICE arrested an illegal alien from Kyrgyzstan whose truck hit a van and killed 4 people in Indiana. In its latest statement, the Department of Transportation said that the nationwide audit has uncovered systemic non-compliance in several states, including New York, California, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Colorado, North Carolina, when it came to issuing non-domiciled CDLs. The recent final rule closes the safety gap that allowed state driver's licensing agencies to issue CDLs to foreigners without verifying their driving history. It also ends the reliance on employment authorization documents that resulted in tens of thousands of licenses being issued illegally in more than 30 states. For far too long, America has allowed dangerous foreign drivers to abuse our trucking license system, wreaking havoc on our roadways. This safety loophole ends today, said Sean Duffy. I've heard this quite a bit from Sean Duffy. Multiple times he kept talking about it. But, okay, I hope it works. Moving forward, unqualified drivers will be unable to get a license to operate an 80,000-pound big rig. Under President Trump's leadership, we are putting, well, what about a 79,000? Let's put ICE at the weigh stations. That'll fix it fast. FedEx, I agree. Somebody. I know in some states, Florida and other states, they're putting they put the state police at the truck stops and other things, at the weigh stations, and basically are making people read like Dr. Seuss books and stuff like that. And if they can't, then they're like, nope, you can't drive if you can't read English. From enforcing English language standards to holding fraudulent carriers accountable, we will continue to attack this crisis on our roads head on. Stricter driving standards. The Department of Transportation's push to enforce stricter truck driving standards faces some challenges. In November, Duffy announced that California had revoked 17,000 illegally issued CDLs. Notices were sent to the license holders informing them their license would expire in 60 days. Why wouldn't it be immediately expire? However, on December 30th, California said it would delay the revocation until March after it was sued by an immigrant driver and business groups. All weigh stations are ran by their state police. Yeah, that's why they just have them there. Have them do it. Dr. Seuss is banned. Okay. Commercial drivers are an important part of our economy. So he said they said they were going to do it, and then they just waited until no one was looking and said, "Now we changed our mind. It's California." Yeah, we need the illegal alien truck drivers to go kill people in other states so that California stuff can keep moving. That's what it says. Duffy announced on January 7th that the deadline to revoke the license was over and the federal government would have to withhold $160 million from California for failing to see through the revocation process. The latest final rule issued follows Trump's April 28th executive order that made English language proficiency a non-negotiable safety requirement for professional drivers. Earlier this month, almost 2,000 truck drivers deemed unqualified to drive were removed from American roads, including around 50 who violated English proficiency standards. Regarding the latest rule, Duffy said in February 11th post on X that the regulations for Delilah Coleman and all the Americans killed or hurt in crashes caused by unqualified foreign truck drivers. Delilah is the 5-year-old girl who suffered critical injuries in the truck accidents in last September. Wow. Okay, on to the next story here. Holy crap, Senator Marco Rubio got a massive standing ovation in Germany after he told Europe we need to move back towards Christianity and against third world migration. Marco is crushing it, and the whole world sees it. We love Marco. Let's see. Wow. That's crazy. All right. See, here's the story. Rubio says the U.S. and Europe belong together, but warns allies to defend themselves at the Munich conference. A legal immigrant drove a semi, passing 3 no fines for using the runway ramps. Ripped the kid at the bottom of Lewiston Hill. 7 Mile 5. I don't Marco Rubio unloads on useless United Nations in Germany, has no answers to the world's biggest crises. At the 2026 Munich Security Conference in Germany, Secretary of State Marco Rubio delivered a thunderous rebuke of the failed globalist order, calling out international institutions like the United Nations for stunning impotence in the face of war, terrorism, and global instability. Standing before Americans' allies at one of the most consequential geopolitical forums in the world, Rubio made it clear the era of outsourcing sovereignty to unelected global bureaucracies is over. Rubio laid out the brutal reality check for the internationalist class that has spent decades pushing a so-called rules-based global order, while America and Europe hollowed out their industrial base and surrendered control of critical supply chains. Uzelian says Marco is more likely to be the next president than JD. It will most likely be Marco president, JD vice again, mostly because you don't hear from JD really. But Marco said he was not going to run against JD. Instead, Rubio emphasized, okay, this is what, according to Rubio, he says the UN failed to stop the war in Gaza, the UN failed to end the war in Ukraine, the UN failed to contain Iran's nuclear ambitions, the UN failed to confront narco-terrorist regimes like Venezuela. Instead, Rubio emphasized it was America's leadership, not international resolutions, that produced results. We can no longer be a place. We can no longer place the so-called global order above the vital interests of our people and our nations. We do not need to abandon the system of international cooperation we authored, and we do not need to dismantle the global institutions of the old order that together we built. But these must be reformed. They must be rebuilt. Gundam Zig says, I watched a lot of Rubio and he did well. Walsh also bitch slapped the EU, and Calais went into bitch mode. Calais? I don't know. For example, the United Nations still has tremendous potential to be a tool for good in the world. We cannot ignore that today. But the most pressing matters before us, it has no answers and has virtually no role to play. Don't like that. Don't like that. Don't like that. Don't like that. It could, yeah. It could not solve the war in Gaza. Instead, it was American leadership that freed captives from barbarians and brought about a fragile truce. It had not solved the war in Ukraine. It took American leadership and a partnership with many of the countries here today just to bring the two sides to the table in search of a still elusive peace. It was powerless to constrain the nuclear program of the radical Shia clerics in Tehran that required 14 bombs dropped with precision from American B-2 bombers, and it was unable to address the threat to our national security from narco-terrorist dictators in Venezuela. Instead, it took American special forces to bring the fugitive to justice. Oh, okay, let's see.
And so this is why we Americans may sometimes come off as a little direct and urgent in our counsel. This is why President Trump demands seriousness and reciprocity from our friends here in Europe. The reason why, my friends, is because we care deeply. We care deeply about your future and ours. And if at times we disagree, our disagreements come from our profound sense of concern about a Europe with which we are connected, not just economically, not just militarily. We are connected spiritually, and we are connected culturally. We want Europe to be strong. We believe that Europe must survive, because the two great wars of the last century serve for us as history's constant reminder that ultimately our destiny is and will always be intertwined with yours. Deindustrialization was not inevitable. It was a conscious policy choice, a decades-long economic undertaking that stripped our nations of their wealth, of their productive capacity, and of their independence. And the loss of our supply chain sovereignty was not a function of a prosperous and healthy system of global trade. It was foolish. It was a foolish but voluntary transformation of our economy that left us dependent on others for our needs and dangerously vulnerable to crisis. Mass migration isn't some fringe concern of little consequence. It was and continues to be a crisis which is transforming and destabilizing societies all across the West. Together, we can not only take back control of our own industries and supply chains, we can prosper in the areas that will define the 21st century. But we must also gain control of our national borders. Controlling who and how many people enter our countries, this is not an expression of xenophobia. It is not hate. It is a fundamental act of national sovereignty. And the failure to do so is not just an abdication of one of our most basic duties owed to our people. It is an urgent threat to the fabric of our societies and the survival of our civilization itself. We do not need to abandon the system of international cooperation we authored, and we don't need to dismantle the global institutions of the old order that together we built. But these must be reformed. These must be rebuilt. For example, the United Nations still has tremendous potential to be a tool for good in the world. But we cannot ignore that today, on the most pressing matters before us, it has no answers and has played virtually no role. It could not solve the war in Gaza. Instead, it was American leadership that freed captives from barbarians and brought about a fragile truce. It has not solved the war in Ukraine. It took American leadership in partnership with many of the countries here today just to bring the two sides to the table in search of a still elusive peace. But we do not live in a perfect world. And we cannot continue to allow those who blatantly and openly threaten our citizens and endanger our global stability to shield themselves behind abstractions of international law which they themselves routinely violate. This is the path that President Trump and the United States has embarked upon. It is the path we ask you here in Europe to join us on. It is a path we have walked together before and hope to walk together again. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. For we in America
Sounds good.
have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. Because for us Americans, our home may be in the Western Hemisphere, but we will always be a child of Europe. And I'm here today to leave it clear that America is charting the path for a new century of prosperity, and that once again, we want to do it together with you, our cherished allies and our oldest friends. Because yesterday is over.
I don't like all the
future
cuts. I wonder what
is
was in the
inevitable.
cuts.
And our destiny together awaits.
All the jump cuts. I don't like all the jump cuts. I wonder what was in the jump cuts, if there was anything interesting there. Lewiston, Idaho. Oh, man. Oh, hey, Chris is here. What's up, Chris? Subdivisions. Yeah, I checked out his karaoke stream. He was doing some duets. It was really good. Hey, Jim, thanks for coming in the stream. And thanks for the great content as always. Love the show. Well, thank you so much, Chris. And with that, that means we are now $86 away. $86 away from the first additional hour and 36 away from Bellavision. Thank you so much. Yes, no physical Senate needed. Thanks, Subdivision. He's in third place popularity at the moment. Must welcome friends. Thank you. You're welcome. Yes, thank you. Nanny Goat, I'm not surprised. They're in big trouble there. Yes. Campaign 2020 for Biden. Remember, come in all you asylum seekers and cartel coyotes while Trump warned us about the caravans and invasion. Yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy. Hey, hi, Sunshine. What's up, G-Sharkman? Great to see you. Awesome. We want them to stop being weak little girls because for a large number of Americans, they are our heritage and where we came from. We don't want to be destroyed. We don't want to be destroyed. We are Amelia. Dealing with Europeans is a waste of time. He's not speaking to the 1940s after the war. Europeans, they're all socialists. That's fine. Rubio rocked it. He got a standing ovation after his speech. I saw the standing ovation. We played it first. You know what they did. He sounded presidential. Those in that audience didn't like what he was saying. Didn't look like it. They seemed better than Obama's apology tour. Yes, it was. Don't let the Europeans fool you by applause. They're a lost cause. Maybe it's a stutter. The Fabians didn't like it. A whole 16-minute video of Mike Wall's clashes with Callis over Trump onslaught. Oh, okay. We will check that out. Well, they liked the speech later. He was really good. Yo, what's up, Spuds? Great to see you. And Fabians can be flipped. All right. We will see. We will see. We will see. So he also blasted the ideological foundations of the post-war globalism, warning that the West had embraced a dangerous delusion following the fall of the Soviet Union, believing nationhood would be replaced by trade agreements and transnational governance. Armies do not fight abstractions. Armies fight for a people. Armies fight for a nation. Armies fight for a way of life. Wow. Hey, what's up, Spuds? Gifted one. Jim tells you membership. Thank you, Spuds. Yes. With that, we are now $80 away from the first additional hour of the show and 30 away from Bellavision. Thank you, Spuds. Let's see who got that. It says BS Unfortunate Initials 4996 received a gifted membership from Spuds. Thank you, Spuds. There's 82 people watching on YouTube and only 60 likes. Come on, people, get in there, hit that like button, hit that like button. You know, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Yes. So please hit the like button, please. Marks is slow motion Jim Jones. Spuds, this Bud's for you. Spuds McKenzie, yes. So, let's see.
National security, which this conference is largely about, is not merely a series of technical questions. How much we spend on defense or where, how we deploy it, these are important questions. They are. But they are not the fundamental one. The fundamental question we must answer at the outset is, what exactly are we defending? Because armies do not fight for abstractions. Armies fight for a people. Armies fight for a nation. Armies fight for a way of life. And that is what we are defending. A great civilization that has every reason to be proud of its history.
I agree. Hey, Wheezy Bob is here. Cheers. What's up? Great to see you. He pointed directly to the decades of deindustrialization, mass migration, energy self-sabotage, and outsourcing of sovereignty to international institutions. Matt Hacker remembers Fabian. She used to have his photo pinned over my bed. Wasn't he a singer? Didn't Fabian sing songs? It wasn't like love songs like for teenage girls, like Johnny Fontaine. As policy failures and driven by globalist thinking that left Western nations economically dependent on and militarily vulnerable. Invoking the leadership of Donald Trump, Rubio told the allies the United States is embarking on a path of national renewal, one focused on reindustrialization, border control, supply chain independence, defense readiness, Western technological dominance. Controlling who and how many people enter our countries is not hate, it's a fundamental act of national sovereignty. Rubio emphasized that while the U.S. prefers to work alongside Europe, America is prepared to move forward alone if necessary to restore its economic strength and defend its civilization. Uzelian, Gundam, hey, have fun here, man. That's right. We're trying. We're all trying. All trying to have fun. And Rubio said, thank you very much. We gathered today as members of a historic alliance, an alliance that has saved and changed the world. When this conference began in 1963, it was a nation. Actually, it was on a continent that was divided against itself. The line between communism and freedom ran through the heart of Germany. The first barbed fences of the Berlin Wall had gone up just 2 years prior. And just months before that first conference, before our predecessors first met here in Munich, the Cuban Missile Crisis had brought the world to the brink of nuclear destruction. Even as World War II still burned fresh in the memory of Americans and Europeans alike, we found ourselves staring down the barrel of a new global catastrophe, one with the potential for a new kind of destruction, more apocalyptic and final than anything before the history of mankind. Now I'll play AOC and Hillary's speech. If I find them, Johnny Sanchez. I finds them, eyes plays them. Yeah. At the time of this first gathering, Soviet communism was on the march. Thousands of years of Western civilization hung in a balance. At that time, victory was far from certain. But we were driven by a common purpose. We were unified not just by what we were fighting against, we were unified by what we were fighting for. And together, Europe and America prevailed, and a continent was rebuilt. Our people prospered. In time, the East and West blocks were reunited. A civilization was once again made whole. Trending news looks as breaking Susan Collins back SAVE Act with one condition. GOP now secures 51 votes. I wonder what the one condition is. That you defund ICE? Probably something like that. That infamous wall that had cleaved this nation in two had come down, and with it, an evil empire. And the East and West became one again. But the euphoria of this triumph led us to a dangerous delusion that we had entered, quote, the end of history, that every nation would now be a liberal democracy, and that the ties that formed by trade and by commerce alone would now replace nationhood, and that the rules-based global order, an overused term, would now replace the national interest, that we would now live in a world without borders and where everyone became a citizen of the world. No. That was a foolish idea that ignored both human nature and ignored the lessons of over 5,000 years of recorded human history. And it has cost us dearly. In this delusion, we embraced a dogmatic vision of free and unfettered trade, even as some nations protected their economies and subsidized their companies to systematically undercut ours, shuttering our plants, resulting in large parts of our societies being deindustrialized, shipping millions of working and middle-class jobs overseas, and handing control of our critical supply chain to both adversaries and rivals. We increasingly outsourced our sovereignty to the international institutions, while many nations invested in massive welfare states at the cost of maintaining the ability to defend themselves. This, even as other countries have invested in the most rapid military buildup in all of human history and have not hesitated to use hard power to pursue their own interests. To appease a climate cult, we have imposed energy policies on ourselves that are impoverishing our people, even as our competitors exploit oil and coal and natural gas and everything else. Not just to power their economies, but to use it as leverage against our own. And in pursuit of a world without borders, we opened our borders to an unprecedented wave of mass migration. Well, I don't know. The U.S. paid for their defense. Yeah. Do you find it risible? Do you find it risible? I don't know. And future people, we made our mistakes together, and now together we owe it to our people to face the facts and move forward and rebuild. Under President Trump, the United States of America will once again take on the task of renewal and restoration, driven by a vision of a future as proud and as sovereign and as vital as our civilization's past. And while we are prepared, it is necessary to do this alone. And while we are prepared to, if necessary, to do this alone, it is our preference and is our hope to do this together with you, our friends here in Europe. For the United States and Europe, we belong together. America was founded 250 years ago, but the roots began here, on this continent, long before. The men who settled and built the nation of my birth arrived on our shores carrying the memories and traditions and Christian faith of their ancestors as a sacred inheritance, an unbreakable link between the old world and the new. Who paid for the Iraq war percentage? We are part of one civilization, Western civilization. We are bound to one another by the deepest bonds that nations could share, forged by centuries of shared history, Christian faith, culture, heritage, language, ancestry, and the sacrifices of our forefathers made together for the common civilization for which we have fallen heir. And so this is why the Americans may sometimes come off as a bit direct and urgent in our counsel, and this is why President Trump demands seriousness and reciprocity from our friends here in Europe. The reason why, my friends, is because we care deeply. We care deeply about your future and ours. And if at times we disagree, our disagreements come from our profound sense of concern about a Europe with which we are connected. Not just economically, not just militarily. We are connected spiritually and connected culturally. We want Europe to be strong. We believe that Europe must survive because the two great wars of the last century serve for us as history's constant reminder that ultimately our destiny is and always will be intertwined with yours, because we know that the fate of Europe will never be irrelevant to our own. Holy Grail has better lines. Detroit is a techno state. National security, which is a conference is largely about, is not merely a series of technical questions. Oh yeah, I think he said this is stuff that he said. Oh, so here he said. This wasn't in it. This part was cut. It was here in Europe that both the ideas planted the seeds of liberty to change the world were born. It was here in Europe where the world, which gave the world the rule of law, the universities, and the scientific revolution. Well, I mean, I guess if you're considering Rome, he must be considering Rome to be Europe, right? And ancient Greece, because the rule of law comes from like ancient Greek and Rome, right? And like stuff like that. And the universities, I believe the universities, like schooling and the collegiate. What are they called? Collegiate was in Rome. The collegias. Yes, Wakanda forever. Europe isn't looking out for the U.S. No, they're not. It was the continent that produced the geniuses of Mozart, Beethoven, Dante, and Shakespeare, Michelangelo, and Da Vinci, of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And this is the place where the vaulted ceilings of the Sistine Chapel and the towering spires of the great cathedral in Cologne that testify not just to the greatness of our past or to the faith in God that inspired these marvels. They foreshadow the wonders that await us in our future. But only if we are unapologetic in our heritage and proud of this common inheritance can we together begin to work of envisioning and shaping our economic and political futures. If you must, Hillary. Okay. I say, so what to all this, Jim? Okay. Kaliji sounds like the new fungus. This speech reminds me of his farewell address when Rubio left the Florida House of Representatives. Maybe, I don't know. I never heard it. So, let's see. Is there any more? Man, this just keeps going, man. Holy shit. How long did he talk for? Our story began when an Italian explorer whose adventure into the great unknown to discover a new world brought Christianity to the Americas. Our first colonies were built by English settlers to whom we not only owe the language we speak, but the whole of our political and legal system. The Anunnaki did a great job before the Bronze Age. Yes, they did. What are you saying? Africa didn't come up with anything? What happened to all the Kangs and Quains? Yes, I know it's king and queen. I know. So, wow. Holy shit, man. Like, this would have been this is crazy long. Wow. Wow. Let me see here. So, hold up. Wait a minute. All right. So, let me do this. This. All right. So then we got this one, this story here. It's 22 minutes long. Wow, that's a long. Holy crap. Cycloptic stones. Europe is destroying itself. We can't fix it. It's possible. The Times of India.
To spend money. So that.
Tensions erupted at the Munich Security Conference as Europe and the United States clashed publicly over the future of Ukraine. This is some long-ass ads, man. This was playing a long time. Wow. Come on.
We are not doing anything. In the beginning, you said also that is it that actually the rules of jungle and the might makes right actually has always been there, and one might say that is true that those who have the power have had different rules. But even in jungle, animals cooperate.
We're asking the rest of the world to be there with us in a fair way financially, because there is a cost to the status quo, and the status quo
Rubio
was not sustainable anymore.
Oh my God.
And that's, I think, on behalf of our constituents, a fair question to ask.
Kaya, how do you respond to that? It's a reasonable point, surely.
No, of course it is. But if you look at also to the United Nations and all the contributions, then when it comes to the development aid, Europe is doing the biggest share. So I don't really buy this argument that we are not doing.
The questions that we are all asking ourselves is the old system, at a big picture system of multilateral rules, engagement, alliances, is changing, and we are wondering what the United States, where it wants to go and what it wants to do. And is it a world of might is right, great power politics, unconstrained? Because, and this is the question to you, does the president believe in a multilateral system where there are rules that would constrain the United States or not?
No.
NATO is stronger because of our leadership and push for the reforms that were badly needed, namely the contributions. The UN will be stronger at the end of this process. The status quo was unsustainable and not working in places like Gaza or Azerbaijan, Armenia. You have to ask yourself, why were we 18 months ago in so many active wars around the world? And I think it's a fair question for the president to say, why hasn't the UN been able to resolve issues like a border dispute between Cambodia and Thailand, or Azerbaijan, Armenia, or we could walk around the world, or Kashmir and India and Pakistan, where we faced a very serious nuclear escalation. So what I'm hearing outside of forums like this privately is, thank you for American leadership. America has to lead. If we have to have more focused plurilateral or focused multilateral organizations to do so, I think that should be perfectly acceptable if we're getting the results that results in peace and security.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I think that was actually very clear. Questions? Lady here in the fourth row. If you could identify yourself and keep it very brief.
Thank you. My name is Amal Modelleli. I'm a researcher at Princeton University. I have two quick questions. Mr. Waltz, it's good to see you. And
thank you.
Thanks to your efforts, Resolution 2803 was passed and the Board of Peace was established. But the problem that people are having is that the charter of the Board of Peace that came out from the White House later on, it does not mention Gaza, and it talks about solving global problems. doesn't this go beyond the mandate that you got from the United Nations? Can I have a second question?
Why don't we just stick with that one? Because there were a lot of hands went up, and it's a very focused question.
Look, the Board of Peace is absolutely focused on Gaza. I think you will see that in the meeting next week. But in the formation and in its founding documents, the team wanted to leave flexibility to be able to tackle other problems if asked. Again, this was an outcropping of what I think history will look back on, which was an absolutely
mask. She's wearing a mask. Someone asked this question. Oh my Lord. Effie, what's up? Great to see you. He spoke for almost an hour. Wow, that is desperation for Europe to get it together for something. Yeah. I removed that comment. Okay. Were they Russians? I don't know. Carvel Crypt said, first, screeching awfuls are rooting the Demon Rat Party well before Vance's crazy cat ladies. Yep. Liberal women are killing our culture. I'm a chick. KJ, I know. Hetty the Mercurial is here. Hello, friends. What's up, Hetty? Great to see you. Hello. It's not part of the job of the President of the United States to take care of other countries. Pam Graham, you are 100% correct. It is his job to take care of the U.S.
Historic meeting where the president convened the countries of the region and the Muslim majority nations, namely Pakistan, Turkey, and Indonesia. Just a few weeks prior, we had the strike on downtown Doha from the Israelis. There was a lot of concern that would the diplomatic momentum continue. And just a few months later, we had Sharm el-Sheikh with Abu Mazen from the Palestinians shaking the president's hand in the historic speech at the Knesset. The hostages released, the ceasefire in place, the humanitarian aid flowing, and now an international security force moving. So again, let's focus on the results in Gaza that we're seeing as a result of this action.
Thank you. Gentleman there in the second row.
I'm Mustafa Barghouti from Palestine. I have this question. We are held accountable as Palestinians 3 times a day. Israel is violating the ceasefire already 1,000.
Sorry, not watching it. That's enough. So, that's that. And tensions erupted as Europe and the United States clashed publicly over the future of Ukraine and transnational Atlantic ties. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas forcefully pushed back against American claim that Europe is not doing enough financially. Oh, that's the woman that was shaking her head and stuff. Okay, that's who that blonde woman is. Yeah, the heated exchange underscored widening rifts with Western allies. You know what? Okay, Palestine isn't a country. Yeah, it's enough. There is no Palestine. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't exist. Maybe that's why he's challenged 3 times a day, because he keeps making stuff up in his head. I don't know. And then and here's Sarah McBride speaks at Hillary Clinton's Fundamental Rights for Women's panel. So Hillary, I can clearly see you're a man. Apparently everybody in politics is in Germany for the Munich Security Conference. We can understand the current Secretary of State being there. Also, for some reason, a former Secretary of State who moderated a panel on fundamental rights for women featured on the panel Sarah McBride, who went on about how transphobia and misogyny are rooted in the same prejudice. No transgenderism, men insisting on invading women's spaces like women's shelters, locker rooms, sororities, prisons, and more is rooted in misogyny. Here's a 3-minute clip of Clinton introducing McBride and McBride's opening remarks, but if you can't make it through the whole 3 minutes, we'll follow up with a 30-second clip of just McBride talking nonsense. I thought I wanted to hear Hillary Clinton is moderating this. I could swear Hillary Clinton, there was something about Hillary Clinton saying something about, hold on, I'll find it. There's a clip of Hillary Clinton. Let me see. Hold on. Oh, here it is. So here it is. Hold on. There's a clip of Hillary Clinton ripping it. It says Hillary Clinton in Germany rips open borders, demands a halt to mass third world migration and secure borders. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing. When's the left going to call her a Nazi? This is insane that she's doing this. Like, She could have said something 4 years ago.
I think we need to call it for what it is.
Secretary
There is a
Clinton.
legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way with secure borders that don't torture and kill people. I think we need to call it for what it is.
See, there it is. She's that don't torture and kill people. So we're torturing and killing people. That's what Hillary Clinton is saying. We're torturing and killing people. Wow. That's insane. Wow. This is crazy. And then John Fetterman obliterates Rep. AOC for attacking Israel over genocide but being silent on Iran. Hetty, I met Hillary, scariest day of my life. Did she smell like sulfur? Because I heard that Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. Pardon me while I hug the toilet. Yeah. So why is she so eager to criticize Israel, but I don't recall her saying anything as Iran executed thousands of protesters? There was never a genocide in Gaza. That's John Fetterman, a Democrat, saying it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Why is she so eager to criticize and find a way to criticize Israel? But I don't really recall them saying anything as Iran was executing thousands of their protesters for that. Now, there was never any genocide in Gaza, absolutely. And there shouldn't ever be any conditions for aid for Israel because they were in an existential war. That's part of the problem with the very anti-Israel part of my party. So call that what it is. Why wouldn't you can't just stand? And why would you align yourself for raging anti-Semitites and very pro-Hamas people like Hassan Piker? And now, why can't you just call it what it is? You know, there's a rot in my party standing with pro-Hamas people like that, whether it's even in the New York Times. They're fascinated with him. So, I mean, where we are and call this is and stand with Israel, that's our special ally. And there was never a genocide. And when there is a genocide where you're executing tens of thousands of people in Iran, why not and call that out too?
Your party also.
He's sounding more like a Republican each time. Yeah, but he's still like, I don't know. His voting pattern doesn't represent the stuff that he says. So this story. So this is something like we talked about Epstein stuff, and I said like a lot of this stuff seems to me like there's like a plan, and it's like they're up to something. They're, with the stuff they're doing, what they're trying to make new laws and everything. But check this out. This is an Epstein survivor that in 2015 I didn't have sex with Epstein. I wasn't abused. I gave massages and made sandwiches. I just felt stupid. The same survivor in 2025, Epstein repeatedly abused me. I still have severe PTSD. Oh, and Epstein bragged about being friends with Trump. Joe says, I had a soldier misplace a SIPR laptop for like 2 hours. We couldn't find it. He lost rank in military career. But that bitch can have a server at her home, not a SIPR server, but a JWix. F her. Yeah, that's Fetterman 2.0. Remember John Travolta and Phenomenon, stroke, fluent in Portuguese, 30 minutes? It's possible. He has got on board for a few things conservative. Yeah, he says he supports the voter ID stuff. So this is let's see. Let's check this out.
She was the air hostess on board the notorious Lolita Express, the billionaire's private jet at the center of a sex scandal making lurid headlines across the world. Sleazy Wall Street tycoon Jeffrey Epstein used the Lolita Express to ferry a bevy of beautiful young women. Among the passengers, former President Bill Clinton and Britain's Prince Andrew.
On almost every trip that I did go on, there were young girls around.
In this Inside Edition exclusive, Shantae Davies takes us inside the secret world of the Lolita Express, named for the controversial book and movie about a professor's infatuation with an underage girl.
Shantae made several trips on Jeffrey Epstein's infamous Lolita Express. She says she was one of several young, attractive women hired to travel around the world, giving massages or yoga instruction to Epstein and his rich and powerful friends.
When Shantae was hired, she was a struggling 22-year-old actress. She once played a lingerie model in a movie called
So she was 22 years old. She wasn't 14. Secret. JWIC's is top secret. I didn't want to have to go through all of it. Fungi Express, yeah. They had those women around for no reason. Yeah, right.
Exposed.
These designs are really great.
Shantae worked as a masseuse, but says she never had sex with Epstein.
Did you ever think that maybe more was going on than simple massages?
Looking back, of course.
Was there a bed on the airplane?
Actually, yes, there was. Yeah.
On one memorable flight on board a plane like this provided by Air Hollywood, she says she made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for passengers, including Oscar winner Kevin Spacey, actor Chris Tucker, and even Bill Clinton. They were all flying to Africa on a humanitarian mission, and Jeffrey Epstein had given them the use of his jet.
So you never gave President Clinton a massage?
No, I didn't.
Shantae says when the plane landed in Africa, Clinton took her shopping, but she says nothing improper occurred.
They had shut down a jewelry store for us, and I helped him pick out a bracelet for Chelsea.
It was a jet-set lifestyle for sure, but Shantae says she felt uncomfortable about being part of Epstein's collection of young women.
You saw young women around Jeffrey Epstein, and they didn't seem to have regular jobs, and you started wondering, why are they here?
Yes, yes.
When you look back, are there red flags that you should have seen at the time?
Definitely, yeah. Why fly anyone out to be a masseuse when there's plenty of masseuses in the same city that you're in?
Epstein served 13 months in prison for soliciting an underage girl for prostitution. Now just looking at the front page headlines the scandal has generated brings Shantae to tears.
To have to deal with that and then on top of it defend my character, I'll have children one day, you know, and they'll read this.
She wonders whether she'll ever be able to live down her time on the Lolita Express.
More than anything, I just felt stupid. Yeah, I felt duped.
Hello, my name is Shantae Davies, and I'm here before you today as a survivor of decades of pain, trauma, and betrayal at the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein.
Wait a minute. She was hired at 22. What the fuck's going on here? How is this happening? Ain't it amazing that Roe had to backtrack on 4 to 6 names for the very fucking thing that was said? A lot of investigations showed innocence and did not want innocent people trashed just for being mentioned. Yeah, well, especially when you got people coming out and saying, you know, every one of those victims at the congressional hearing were not minors. Yeah. This was all over YouTube in 2016. Yeah. Yeah. And all those women were just for Epstein. Yeah, right. Or before. Boo-hoo. Yeah. F. Roe and Massey. Yeah.
And the people who enabled them, and a government that for far too long refused to help.
Wait, did she
in
ask
2002,
for help?
I was.
Did she ask for help in 2015, or she said she was duped and all this stuff and made sandwiches, never had it, was abused? So what is it?
Living in California, a young woman with high aspirations of becoming an actress, I was already beginning to make a name for myself in the industry. A person I trusted, someone I thought was a friend, invited me to meet a powerful woman who could help advance my career. That woman happened to be Ghislaine Maxwell. I was asked to give her a massage, though I had almost no experience, and when I did, she praised me and promised introductions to someone enormously powerful, someone who could change the course of my life, and that man was Jeffrey Epstein. At first, I was an excited young woman on top of the world. Epstein flew me to his private island. He listened to my dreams, promised to help, but his promises came with a catch. The abuse began. He told me to keep it secret. He manipulated me with quid pro quo I did not consent to, but I felt I had no one to turn to. He was...
Oh, it's amazing now that she could just say this. There's no way to back anything up now because he's dead. And he, you know, there's nothing. And so this is, come on. Yeah, on top of the world, Ma. Yeah, F them. Sandwiches.
Too powerful. I was just one of the many young women trapped in his orbit. I was even taken on a trip to Africa with former President Bill Clinton and other notable figures.
What happened with that trip?
In those moments, I realized how powerless I was. If I spoke out, who would believe me? Who would protect?
Well, what happened? What happened on the trip with Bill Clinton? Something on top of something. Yeah. So I wonder what happened. What happened with Bill Clinton?
Me? Epstein himself was the most powerful leader of our country. Epstein surrounded himself, with the most powerful leaders of our country and the world.
Oh, yeah. Who? Why?
He abused not only me, but countless others, and everyone seemed to look away. The truth is, Epstein had a free pass. He bragged about his powerful friends, including our current president, Donald Trump.
Oh, Donald Trump. Oh, okay. Really? Did you say that in 2015? No?
It was his biggest brag, actually.
Oh, his biggest brag. So this is just a political hack bitch that came up with the shit. This is just Blasey Ford 2.0. That's who this is. Blasey Ford 2.0. That's who this is. Blasey Ford 2.0. Wow. Okay, we're going to get to that in a second. And then this is a shocking video. I saw this, and she's talking as if it was only Epstein. Well, yeah, because she can't get to say anything about anybody else because she doesn't want to get sued. Vic said something serial, I forget what, that nobody else here heard while yanking my hair. Sexual, not serial. Oh. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're talking about Vic Mignogna? You're talking about Vic Mignogna? Yeah, sexual. Yeah. Well, of course, of which Donald Trump was the good guy. Yeah. Well, remember that claim? Yeah, Vic Mignogna. Yeah, he got fired, all this stuff. So a woman in Calvert County, Maryland, reportedly contacted Child Protective Services after students started a Turning Point USA chapter in the school. If only she were aware that Trump kicked at Jeffrey to the curb for being a creep. Yeah, she started working for him in 2002. That was long after Trump had cut off all ties with Jeffrey Epstein. All ties. So, TPUSA America Club, our student-led groups for crying out loud. Political disagreement is not child abuse. This is not about protecting kids. It's about silencing opinions she doesn't like. Why would this woman, too, look at this woman. This woman does not have any children in school. This woman is in her 70s. What the fuck business is it of hers? Is she a teacher? So that's why she did it? I think she's a teacher.
Congratulations, Dr. Newsom. And in the announcement of your position, it was said, we hope you will be more inclusive. I agree. I would like the anti-racism statement returned. In December of 2025, Turning Point USA hosted an event marketed to high school students with food and beverages advertised as an incentive for attendance. While community building opportunities for students are important, this event raises serious concerns related to student safety, parental rights, and governance oversight. Event materials indicated that adults, including parents and legal guardians, were not permitted to attend and that supervision would be provided by unnamed volunteers. Excluding parents and guardians from a student-focused event creates a lack of transparency and undermines established best practices for youth safety. School-affiliated or school-adjacent activities should adhere to clear supervision standards, background check requirements.
Really? So all the gay alliance stuff that they have at the schools, they have parents attend those, or are parents forbidden? They don't even tell parents. These fucking people refuse to tell the parents if someone starts wearing different clothes and changing their gender and stuff like that. That guy should turn the page. Parental rights, like keeping kids from going trans. Yeah. Culver County, it's a red county? I thought it was. These women weren't trapped. They enjoyed the trappings of the lifestyle. Greg says, this is the bestest live stream on the internet. Make sure you slam the like button. Yeah, slam it. Beat me to it, Jim. Oh, you're fine, Gundam. You're always there. Pray for Washingtonians. We're losing our parental rights and transformers are invading our girls and women's safe spaces.
And defined accountability structures. I am also concerned about a potential conflict of interest involving Board of Education members serving as guest speakers at this event. Board members are entrusted with fiduciary and ethical responsibilities and participation in events targeting students, particularly when parental access is restricted, warrants careful review to ensure compliance with district policies, ethics guidelines, and public trust obligations. Students are widely recognized as vulnerable population. They are in critical developmental stages. And
oh, well, this ladies, they're in critical developmental stages. That's why she wants to brainwash them about anti-hate and anti-racism and all that stuff, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and make sure you turn trans, cut your tits off and all that stuff. That's what she's into. Somehow, that's protecting vulnerable It's like halfway there, but doesn't realize that all the shit you're doing is the opposite of helping kids.
Especially susceptible to influence. For this reason, safeguarding.
Oh, they're susceptible to influence. You don't say. Like from teachers that are telling them all this shit. We keep seeing the videos of the teachers. Really? Yes, disgusting, Lady Obama. Disgusting. It is.
Measures, parental involvement, and transparency are essential. All Board of Education members in this room are mandated reporters under state law, as I am.
So she's part of the Board of Education then. So she is a teacher or something. She's reported this. And she's saying that if someone on the board speaks at a Turning Point USA, it's a conflict of interest or something. But they could speak at all these other things, the anti-ICE protests, do all this other shit. She's fine. That's all good. But it's a group that promotes what? Individualism and Christianity. So that's a bad thing. Okay. All right. Satan lives in this lady's heart and mind.
Based on the circumstances surrounding this event, a report was made to Child Protective Services. All of this was provided along with.
Thank you for your comments.
She should be sued. Turning Point USA should sue this lady for defamation and slander and for violating, because she's a teacher. She says she's a teacher. She did all this stuff. So I bet you she was a teacher at the school and did all this. So that's the state taking an action. Atheists, yeah. And scum. This lady is scum devil. The worst thing, the death of this country is women like that. This story is going to infuriate you too, all right? Infuriate you, all right? The Crown prosecutors requested 7 and 8 year sentences for the 2 organizers of the Freedom Convoy truck protests in Ottawa. This is Canada, to our friends in the north. The Crown prosecutors are requesting 5.5 years for the man who stabbed his 7 and 8 year old children. Let that sink in. So the 2 people on the left got, requested 7 and 8 years. The person on the right, is a trans, 5 years for stabbing people. Canadian Crown prosecutors believe that a Grande Prairie unhinged lunatic who identifies as gender fluid and stabbed his 8-year-old daughter and assaulted his 7-year-old son should just serve 5.5 years behind bars. The man who goes by the name Alice Michael Atwood was released on bail after pleading guilty to aggravated assault. He called the vicious attack on his children a horrible error and a bad decision. He currently lives in a van in British Columbia and makes videos in which he says he makes magic by reading tarot cards and talking about his case. Here he is threatening people, saying they are breaking the law if they use his legal name, and claiming they're putting his children in danger. After stabbing his children, he says he is afraid that if other parents talk about him to their kids, his children could be bullied. Yeah, oh yeah, that's what I said. Very angry. Portland State University grad, been watching the decline since the 90s. Portland State University, okay. Guns, yes. After the attack, his daughter was airlifted to a hospital for emergency surgery to repair her esophagus. She now faces months on a feeding tube, and the rest of the family must find ways to ensure their child's safety. Yes, this is the weirdo right here. Ready? I'm Alice. Oh, I guess we'll listen to a little bit of this. I'm not going to listen to any.
Hello everybody, it's Alice Michael here. I just wanted to share a little PSA for you all because some people don't seem to understand this, but there is a publication ban on my case. That means that anytime someone shares something that has my full legal name on it in reference to the criminal matter that I am a part of, they're breaking the law. And you're also...
Oh, I'll share it because this is America. We have freedom of speech. It's no law. I'm not subject to the jurisdiction of the fucking communist courts in Canada.
Putting my kids in danger. Like more danger than I already have. They have...
Oh, yeah, you're putting them in danger. Oh, because what, he's going to stab him again? Is he threatening to kill his parents? Or it's not his parents, he's threatening to kill his kids?
I've dealt with enough.
Yeah. So this person's crazy. But this is 5.5 years. That's crazy. That's just crazy. It's just nuts, man. Nuts. All right. I don't know. This is from Laura Loomer. We're going to play a little bit of it. I don't know. I'm not like, The up talking. Yeah. Absolute narcissist. Definitely. Your kids, danger. Yeah. The ones he stabbed. You're putting him in more danger than me by stabbing him. Clearly. That's what he's saying. That's nuts. What? Yeah. Tenebra. That's crazy. Foreign-born Congressman Ted Lieu is using his congressional immunity to spew absolute made-up fantasy tales about President Trump raping and murdering young women with Epstein. Lou and his deranged demon rat colleagues know they can say whatever made-up garbage they want during these sham hearings without being sued for slander simply by saying he's conducting oversight. Demon rats are abusing their oversight power to stage viral clips they can blast all over the media and online ahead of the 2026 midterms by fabricating evidence of crimes that never happened. Tree chipper, yes. Portland PD put out a PSA saying don't call 911 unless it's a matter of life and death. Amazingly, crime stats have decreased. Yes, well, if nobody calls the police, then there's no crime, right? And the irony is all the re-election campaigns are being funded by Reid Hoffman, a Jeffrey Epstein associate, and it's a Russian collusion hoax 2.0. So we'll watch a little bit of this, just a little bit.
Foreign Congressman Ted Lieu, who I believe was born in Taiwan, told a fantasy tale during Pam Bondi's hearing accusing President Trump of raping people with Jeffrey Epstein. Lieu only became more deranged as he then implied that Trump and Epstein murdered people. A girl said she was raped by Donald Trump and Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been a suicide. According to who? He's just making things up with the hopes that these clips will go viral ahead of the midterm elections. Because members of Congress are protected from slanderous lawsuits while conducting oversight. So they can make up any crazy shit that they want. They could say whatever the hell they want, and they're not going to get sued because they can say, well, I was doing oversight.
That's crazy, right? Oh, yeah, here's Ted Lieu. Happy Valentine. This is Ted Lieu with some weirdo. I mean, that's Ted Lieu. That's Ted Lieu. This was interesting. I saw this, and I was like, man, they get away with it all because they're protected under the speech and debate clause, yeah? If you challenge Lieu, that is racist, I guess. Yes. Fargo justice would be great. This brings to 3 the number of known tabletop exercises before January 6th, one by the FBI, one by the Transition Integrity Project, John Podesta, Bill Kristol, and one by the DC DHS led by Darnell Harvin that imagined a potential bomb scare. Not preparation, planning. This to puppets, yes. How about water cannons up to his ears? Maybe. Yeah, so here. The FBI secretly prepared for disputed election and political violence in 2020, bombshell report in the memos show. The FBI conducted a tabletop exercise in the summer of 2020 that imagined what sort of violence might ensue in a contested presidential election that year, devising strategies like undercover informants and mass prosecutions for minor crimes that would later use the January 6th Capitol riot, documents obtained by Just the News show. That sigh by Kajakala said, I got beat. Animals in the jungle don't work together on a conscious level. Oh, hi, Jim. Hey, what's up, Jonathan? Great to see you. He's love ass cannons. He's a freak. Yes, he probably would. Director Kash Patel turned over a long secret memo to Congress last week, providing fresh evidence that federal law enforcement was acutely concerned for months ahead of time about the potential for violence in the aftermath of the 2020 election. The memo shows the Bureau's Boston office led a tabletop exercise and culled open source intelligence on potential for violence from both left-leaning anarchists to right-leaning extremists. Bill Kristol used to be a moderator. He did Sunday shows. Bill Kristol claimed he was a conservative. Bill Kristol, and then what was his name? Not Robert Barnes. I think his name was Barnes, a guy named Barnes, but not Robert Barnes. A different Barnes with glasses and gray hair. They used to do these. They used to be on Fox all the time. The memo shows the Bureau's Boston office led to exercise. Yeah, and the FBI assesses domestic violence, extremist threats related to the 2020 election likely will increase as the election approaches, despite the current focus on many DVEs on the COVID-19 pandemic and civil unrest. Election-related threats include, but are not limited to, those against candidates, campaign events, presidential conventions, party officers, elected officials, voter registration events, and threats and plots related to election outcomes. He played a good game. Freaking liar. Yeah. The memo also warned that foreign enemies like Iran and China were likely to foment domestic violence on U.S. soil. Yes. Bill Kristol, along with Keith Olbermann last year, Rosie O'Donnell looked like contest to Mark Cuban. Yeah. As of July 15, 2020, the governments of the People's Republic of China, Iran, and especially Russia appear to have broadly encouraged illegal activity and violence in the hypothetical event that 2020 presidential election results are disputed, especially via the use of opportunistic social media-enabled influence operations. China and Iran were motivated to interfere in the elections and civil stability by interest in undermining U.S. democratic processes. You can read a memo here. We're not going to read the memo. The long secret memo memorializes the exercise were briefly referenced by former FBI Director Chris Wray in June 2021 testimony before Congress in the aftermath of the riot, but were only turned over for the first time after a request by Rep. Barry Loudermilk, the chairman of the House Judiciary Select Committee, on January 6th. Rewatch William F. Buckley on Firing Line. Learn a lot. Yeah. Loudermilk said the memo shows the FBI had far more concerns about a disputed election and violence than it acknowledged during the Biden years, and it failed to adequately alert the U.S. Capitol ahead of January 6, 2021. I'm being contrarian by nature. Sudafed Smurfer. Okay. Yeah, so awesome. Yeah. William F. Buckley was awesome. EU has a population of GDR near the U.S., but about 1/10 the forces, but keep beating more drums. Yeah. Come on, that was funny. Yeah, it was. I laughed on the inside. It also suggests the FBI infiltrate online chat forums and build a network of confidential human sources prior to the January 6th. So is that who Ray Epps was? It further outlines how the FBI should pursue heavy-handed prosecutions for minor offenses, which the Biden DOJ carried out quite effectively after the attack. Well, Jim, how are you tonight? I'm doing good. I've been real busy. I got a lot of stuff going on, and so that's why my shows have been sporadic and not on the correct schedule they should be. We know that CHS reports and other intelligence that the FBI had enough information to not only predict an attack, but to prepare for one. So why the FBI not take steps to protect the U.S. Capitol? I want to give you a hug. Well, that'd be nice. The memo shared a threat assessment exercise conducted by the FBI's Boston field office about potential threats, such as violent extremists may play in the case of a disputed election, warning that growing prevalence of threats towards elected officials in particular. A particular concern to the Boston office was the possibility that a contentious election dispute may prime certain violent groups to prepare for future violence, which could be set off by the next major social upheaval or event. Kind of like all this ICE stuff. That's what's going on with all the ICE stuff, right? Is that what you're talking about? To combat this, the FBI office recommended developing a robust source base that would embed with possible violent groups in order to... So they created the, the Patriot Front? The Fed Front? The office also envisioned strong law enforcement response to even minimal criminal activity as a way to deter any group's plans for future violent action. Oh. So what that means is that by the fact that they don't do anything to Antifa, and don't do anything to the leftist violence, that's cool, and they want that to go on. I laughed, Spuds. I stole it. Comedian. Yes. I'm in. The 2020 election was the most secure election in history. Narrative has long fallen apart as a trope. Now the evidence to the contrary is forthcoming. Take that with a mountain of salt. Yep, I agree. Biden's agencies used J6 as a platform to increase spying and actions against U.S. citizens. These tactics were employed 6 months later in the aftermath of January 6th Capitol riot. After repeatedly refusing to elaborate to Congress how many FBI informants were present in the crowd that day, after action complaints from FBI agents showed that 24 informants were embedded in the crowd and that more than 250 agents were deployed to deal with the crowd. Thousands of J6-related prosecutions pursued by the federal government in the aftermath of the riot, with some offenses only amounting to misdemeanor trespassing, were later used by the FBI to inflate the domestic violent extremist threat metrics, used to justify sweeping expansion of federal law enforcement, later catching up traditional Catholics and parents speaking at school board meetings. The Biden White House released its National Strategy for Countering Domestic Terrorism in June 21, echoing the conclusions of the August 2020 report, but with the January 6th riot in hindsight. The intelligence community assesses the DVEs who are motivated by a range of ideologies and are galvanized by recent political and societal events in the United States pose an elevated threat to the homeland in 2021. What about that Biden speech in all red where, gonna get you, ultra MAGAs. The documents never disclose, however, the key difference between the Capitol riot and other domestic attacks. Unlike the perpetrators in previous deadly domestic terrorist attacks, the January 6 rioters did not kill a single person. Not one. Not one. Not one. We got this story. The CIA and Pentagon reviewed secret Havana syndrome device in Norway. So it's the Norwegians that are giving our people Havana syndrome? What? It says the U.S. official investigated a secret microwave test device in Norway that caused neurological symptoms similar to Havana syndrome. Norway informed the CIA about the incident, which led to visits from the Pentagon's. Test results did not confirm the U.S. diplomats or spies were attacked by a foreign power. I wonder, the racist Joe Tato head speech. I wonder, Spuds, Floyd took the train switch conundrum, sacrificing himself to help 10 strangers ripped from fentanyl ODs. Yeah. So if they're saying it's a microwave device, I wonder if maybe it's microwave communication, like the microwave communication systems we use for burst communications that are like encrypted stuff. If that's what's causing the syndrome, I mean, that's just a guess. That's just a guess for my part. So let's see. Newsmax, we'll read Newsmax. So report CIA Pentagon probed Havana syndrome device. U.S. officials investigated a previously unreported experiment in Norway in which government scientists tested a microwave device and developed neurological symptoms similar to the so-called Havana syndrome. The Washington Post reported on Saturday, citing people familiar with the matter. Yes, lol. Well, you would know, right, Hetty, about that? You invented the first Wi-Fi Bluetooth system. Norway informed the CIA about the incident, prompting at least 2 visits by the Pentagon and White House officials. People familiar with the test said results do not prove the U.S. diplomats and spies were targeted by a foreign adversary, though they show pulse energy devices can affect human biology. Yes. The findings were surprising given that Norwegian researchers, standing as a prominent skeptic of claims that directed energy weapons can produce symptoms linked to anomalous health incidents, according to people familiar with the matter. What are we doing here? This is dumb. There is no Havana in Sweden. In attempting to dramatically disprove the theory by using himself as a test, he instead appeared to undermine his own position. That's funny. He tested himself and he gave it to himself. I don't know what possessed him to go and do this, one of the people said. He's a bit of an eccentric. AHIs, known as possible anomalous health incidents, are unexplained medical events usually reported by groups of people in the same place at time who suddenly experience symptoms like dizziness, headaches, nausea, ear pain, ringing in the ears, pressure, sensation, cognitive fog. They are best known in public because of Havana syndrome, the nickname given to a waiver report starting in 2016 involving U.S. diplomats and intelligence personnel overseas. Yes, that's funny, right? Wasn't there someone else that tested something else on himself and ended up, Madame Curie discovered radium and radioactivity, and the radioactivity killed her. U.S. government has confirmed hundreds of reported incidents among U.S. diplomats, intelligence officers, and military personnel and family members since 2016. Paul Fredericks, a retired military surgeon and Air Force general who oversaw biological threats on the White House National Security Council under Joe Biden, told the Post he thinks there's compelling evidence that we should be concerned about the ability to build a directed energy weapon that can cause a variety of risks to humans. Her jaw fell off. I think so, yeah. The device is believed to emit pulse radio frequency energy, a theory long cited by scientists as a possible explanation for Havana syndrome symptoms. Sources said the device contains Russian components that can fit inside a backpack. Medical findings have been mixed. Some affected individuals were diagnosed with organic brain injuries despite scans showing no visible structure damage. Greg says in 2005 he spent time in the Baltics. Sweden was BS crazy with immigration. So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? We got this story. DHS sends hundreds of subpoenas to social media firms for data on anonymous ICE critics. Now, I don't think they want the ICE critics. I think they want the people that are breaking the law making threats. That's what they want. Anonymous accounts making threats. In my opinion, Raps with CIA and planted into an unknown as of yet law enforcement agency. The only agency not grilled on J6 Fed's direction was the CIA. Epps lives in Mexico on a nice beach now. Does he really? Oh my God. I never left Georgia, USA. I don't want to. Well, on Friday, New York Times reported Homeland Security's expanding efforts to identify America opposing enforcement of federal law. Well, yeah, that's a violation of law. Opposing, stopping federal law from being enforced is a crime. Is a crime. See if any new stories came out with this. Let's see here. Reforma, D News. I guess this is it. Homeland Security wants social media sites to expose anti-ICE accounts. Department of Homeland Security is expanding its efforts to identify Americans who oppose immigration and customs enforcement by sending tech companies legal requests for the names, email addresses, and telephone numbers and other data behind accounts to track or criticize the agency. I don't think it's criticized. I believe it's the ones that track, the ones that are breaking the law. Georgia, Fort Benning, follow me. Yeah, follow me, U.S., yes. In recent months, Google, Reddit, Discord, Meta, which own Facebook and Instagram, received hundreds of administrative subpoenas from Homeland Security, according to 4 government officials and tech employees privy to the requests. They spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly, probably because they're not supposed to discuss this stuff. Google, Meta, and Reddit complied with some of the requests. In the subpoenas, the department asked the companies to identify details of accounts that do not have a real person's name attached and then have pointed to the locations of ICE agents. See, they keep saying criticize or pointed to the location of ICE agent or did this. The New York Times saw 2 subpoenas that were sent to Meta over the last 6 months. The tech companies who can choose whether or not to provide the information have said they review government requests before complying. Some of the companies notified the people whom the government had requested the data on and gave them 10 to 14 days to fight the subpoena in court. The government is taking more liberties than they used to, a senior supervising attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union. Oh, the anti-American uncivil commie union. It's a whole nother level and frequency. Yeah. Over the last 6 months, he has represented people whose social media account information was sought by DHS. Oh, really? Huh. The department has broad administrative subpoena authority, but did not address questions about its requests. Meta, Reddit, and Discord declined to comment. Hedy Lamar says she used to shop the commissary at Fort McPherson. When we receive a subpoena, our review process is designed to protect user privacy while meeting our legal obligations, a Google spokesman said. We inform users when their accounts have been subpoenaed, unless under legal order not to or in an exceptional circumstance. We review every legal demand and push back against those that are overbroad. Send in Cam Higbee. He did us a service the feds couldn't. Officially tell us anyway. Yeah. All criminals love us, ACLU. Okay. The Trump administration has aggressively tried tamping down lawbreaking by identifying the Americans who have violated the law. ICE agents told protesters that they were being recorded and identified by facial recognition. Last month, Tom Homan, the border czar, said that he was going to create a database of people that were arrested for interference, impeding, and assault. Well, yeah, that's breaking the law. That's called breaking the law. Silicon Valley has long had an uneasy relationship with the federal government and how much user information to provide it. Transparency reports published by tech companies show that the number of requests for user information from different governments around the world has climbed over the years, with the United States and India among those submitting the most. Some social media companies previously fought government requests for information. In 2017, Twitter, now X, sued the government to stop an administrative subpoena that asked it to unmask an account critical of the first Trump administration. The subpoena was later withdrawn. Unlike arrest warrants, which require a judge's approval, administrative subpoenas are issued by the Department of Homeland Security. They were only sparingly used in the past. Oh, I'm sure they were only sparingly used. Yeah, I'm sure they were. Yeah, I'm sure Biden didn't go after a whole bunch of people. Yeah. They were only, primarily to uncover people behind social media accounts engaged in serious crimes. Why does it have to be, who decides what a serious crime is? Isn't that the government that decides if the crime's serious, if it wants to investigate it? I mean, that would make sense, right? But last year, the department ramped up its use to unmask anonymous social media accounts. What about Gillum? Yeah. Watching Stallone swagger down the street. Wow. In September, it sent Meta administrative subpoena to identify the people behind the Instagram accounts that posted about ICE raids in California. The subpoenas were challenged in court, and the Department of Homeland Security withdrew the request before a judge could rule. If you're not If you're not entitled to the information, if they didn't break the law, you shouldn't be asking for the information. Let's get this straight. They shouldn't be asking the names of people that are just criticizing them. That's allowed. You can't do that. The pressure is on the end user, the private individual, to go to court. Homeland Security also sought more information on the Facebook and Instagram accounts dedicated to tracking ICE activity. The accounts called Montego Community Watch began posting in Spanish and English about ICE sightings in June. Well, if they're breaking the law, then you can go after them. Well, I find the attitude of social media companies laughable because they were handing stuff over by the bucket load to the Biden administration. See the Twitter file. Yeah, it's crazy, right? All the COVID stuff. Oh, my God. On September 11th, the Department of Homeland Security sent Meta a request for the name, email address, and postcode of the person behind the accounts. Meta informed the two Instagram and Facebook accounts to request on October 3rd. We've received a legal process for information about your Facebook account. If you do not receive a copy of documents that you filed in court to challenge the process, we will respond to requests with the agency. The account owner alerted the ACLU. I'm sure it was probably a lawyer with the ACLU that runs the account. Probably all good, those commie green hat lawyers. In a hearing, the District Court in Northern California, ACL, argued the government was using administrative subpoenas to target people whose speech it did not agree with. Department of Justice lawyer representing the government said the Homeland Security position was that it was in their power to investigate threats to its own officers or impediments to their officers. 2 days later, the subpoena was withdrawn. On Monday, the Instagram account posted an alert for ICE activity in Montgomery County. This is confirmed ICE activity. Thank you, Jim. You know how to increase font sizes on sites on streams. One of the very few across YouTube and Rumble we do from my experiences. Well, I try. So I want people to be able to read it, what I'm saying, so that if I misspeak or say something wrong, somebody might correct me in the chat, hopefully, or other people can read along or whatever. Like allowing students to skip a class to protest ICE? Yeah. Could be. Fort Benning, Fort Stewart. Yeah, Fort Benning. On Friday, the account posted a video of students at the high school protesting against ICE. We stand with you. We're proud to make your voices heard. Shira Frankel is a reporter based in San Francisco covering technology. Okay, so we don't need to read all that. All right. And then, this story is fascinating. So this says that the U.S. courts ruled 4,400 times that ICE detains immigrants illegally. Now, a review of federal court records found more than 4,400 rulings since October that ICE is detaining immigrants unlawfully. They're using weasel words here. Legal findings show immigrant detainees filed more than 20,000 habeas petitions. So they filed 20,000, but only 4,400 rulings. So that means 3/4 of them didn't get ruled against. So only 1/4 of the cases were ruled in their favor. Yeah. And this judge ordered detainees' immediate release. A caseload forced Justice officers to divert more than 700 attorneys to go handle all the habeas cases. Well, that's the thing. They're trying to swamp them. They're trying to swamp them with these things. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to swamp them. So, well, who knows? They got Zelensky over here saying the U.S. is asking Ukraine, not Russia, for concessions. I did my NCO school in Benning and was stationed in Fort Stewart twice. Oh, that's so cool. I thank you for your service. Yes. So President urged U.S. brokered talks to be serious and warn Ukraine is too often asked to make concessions. Who's losing the war? The person who's losing is the one that makes concessions. I don't know if he doesn't understand that. Like that's generally how it works. That's just generally how it works. The losing side makes the concessions. That's generally how it works. Epoch Times, Newsmax. All right, we'll go Epoch Times. Zelensky says the U.S. too often expects Ukraine to make concessions in peace talks. Oh, well. You can always pay for it yourself, bud. In remarks to world leaders, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed hope that upcoming U.S. mediated talks would yield progress towards ending the fighting with Russia. But shared frustration the country is expected to make greater concessions. Zelensky still doesn't have the cards. Yeah, delegations from Kiev, Moscow, and Washington are set to meet next week in Geneva, Switzerland, to hold a third round of trilateral peace talks. The first set of trilateral talks took place in the United Arab Emirates on January 23rd, while the second round took place. Yeah, we truly hope the trilateral meetings will be serious, substantive, and helpful for all of us. Yeah, feels like the sides are talking about completely different things. Zelensky said the Russian side often refers to spirit of anchorage, leaving their Ukrainian counterparts guessing at the meaning. U.S. President Trump and Vladimir Putin met in Anchorage, Alaska. Oh, the spirit of Anchorage. Oh, so he's trying to act like he doesn't know what's going on. I would stay out of the Russia-Ukraine mess. Let the EU handle it. Yeah. The Americans often return with a topic of concessions, and too often those concessions are discussed in the context of only Ukraine and not Russia. At this point, never mind. In separate appearance at the Munich conference on Saturday, Marco Rubio said the remaining issues to be negotiated pose some of the biggest challenges to ending the fighting. What do you think, my friend? The only cards Zelensky has are credit cards to buy a new pair of stilettos. I think this whole mess is all because of U.S. and Britain and some other European countries, and to try and put Russia in our place. But I think I am so sick of Russia, Ukraine. U.S. needs to pull out and let them battle it out like kids. Yeah, I think so. Seward's folly. Yeah. I don't see why we have any involvement. The good news is that the issues that need to be confronted to end this war have been narrowed. The bad news has been narrowed to the hardest questions to answer. Oh. Rubio noted that while the negotiations are still playing out, the United States continues to apply economic sanctions on Russia. Territory remains a contentious topic. Yeah, Ukraine wants the war to end and wants Russia to give back all the territory it seized. What? You can thank Vicky Donuts Newland for the mess in 2014. Yeah, Victoria Newland. Yeah, and why did the Congress just pass a bill that gave Victoria Newland $315 million for her NED that she's running? Russia seized control of the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine in 2014. I mean, here's the thing. Russia always controlled Crimea. It was their base of operations, Sevastopol. I mean, it's been their port for 150 years. So, well, the misfit king of Kiev lost the war on day one. The battles after that are just fights over territory grabs, not principles. Yeah, you can thank Victoria Nuland, a.k.a. the destroying angel of Ukraine mess, and Lindsey Graham not far behind her. Yep. At present, Russian forces control about 20% of Ukraine's pre-2014 territory. Wow, 20%. That's not a little bit. It's not just a little bit. So could be more than a bit, but not just. Russia holds most of the Donetsk province, but has called on Kiev to hand over about 20% of the province that Russian forces have thus far failed to capture by force. Kiev has thus far refused to grant this concession. During his remarks on Saturday, Zelensky said European interests should have greater representation in the peace talks. Great. We should just get out of it then. Europe is practically not present at the table. It's a big mistake in my mind. Zelensky also reiterated calls for international security guarantees. Peace can only be built on security guarantees. So let's look at the history of putting security guarantees on countries in Europe. What happened in World War I? Oh, that's right. Everybody went to war because of Franz Ferdinand, because of the security guarantees that everybody had. What happened with World War II? Oh, yes. England and France put security guarantees on Poland, and then the whole World War started over that when they couldn't do anything to stop it. And, if the Japs would have never bombed Pearl Harbor, who knows how that war would have turned out if we weren't, basically feeding the commies, Stalin and the commies, all our gear and money. Ever heard of the Institute for the Study of War? Yeah. Last week, the European Union agreed on terms for a $106 billion loan. See, the Europeans give loans to Ukraine. We just give them money and arms, and they're giving them loans. This week, NATO members pledged to support more than $1 billion in sales of equipment to Ukraine. Oh, so the EU is going to give Ukraine a loan to buy equipment from EU countries. Isn't that just grand? Wow. So we're going to loan you the money to buy the stuff from us, and then we're going to charge you vigorish. Germans. Yes, the Germans happened. The Germans happened. So I'm going to this. Okay. This. Okay. All right. And then human and organ trafficking. Also, Ukraine was about to turn into the main water supply to Crimea off to lay siege to it for Russian sympathies. That's why Putin intervened. Yeah, I know. It's crazy what they were doing. Snarf, like the biolabs and viruses. We got to test all this new technology in the Ukraine. Yeah. Just make a war. Yeah. So everybody, it's 1:30. I'm going to call it a night. I'm not 100% sure if there will be about Pearl Harbor. I'm not 100% sure if there'll be a show Sunday night. I'm going to try, but we'll see how things go with my grandkids Sunday night. But I want to thank everybody who was here. Please remember to hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And I'll see you all soon. But have a good night and come on back where Jim can tell you the news.